Welcome to Whispers of Wisdom, where every story hides a secret waiting to be told. Stay with us, and don't forget to like and subscribe, before the shadows find you. Chapter 1: The Knock in the Dark. I had always thought of myself as a heavy sleeper. Once my head touched the pillow, I'd drift into that deep, dreamless ocean where neither alarms, nor barking dogs, nor even the creak of the old house could stir me. But that night was different. That night, I woke to a sound so subtle that, under any other circumstance, I would have ignored it and slipped back into slumber. It was a knock. Not the thunderous kind that rattles the wood, but a low, deliberate rap, soft, careful, almost apologetic. A knock meant for me alone. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I blinked in the dim glow of my bedside clock, 12:03 a.m. The house was silent, cloaked in the familiar hush of midnight. My parents' room was down the hall, their door closed tight, and the house groaned under its own age. Another knock. This time firmer, closer. My heart stuttered. I sat up in bed, the blankets sliding off my chest. "Who's there?" I whispered into the dark. No answer. The knock came again, 3 quick taps. My eyes darted to the door. The brass handle trembled ever so slightly, like someone was resting their fingers on it, deciding whether to enter. That was when I heard the whisper. "Open up. It's me." It was my brother, Daniel. Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. Because something in his voice wasn't right. Daniel was 2 years older than me, and normally, he carried himself with a kind of restless confidence, quick words, sharp wit, that mischievous tone like he was always about to let me in on some secret joke. But tonight, his voice was low, strained, as if he were speaking through clenched teeth. I swung my legs over the bed and padded across the cold wooden floor. When I opened the door, Daniel stood there, pale in the faint moonlight filtering through the hall window. His hair was disheveled, his eyes wide and bloodshot, his jaw tight. He wasn't wearing shoes, just socks, and his t-shirt was inside out, as though he'd dressed in a hurry. Before I could ask anything, he raised a finger to his lips. "Shoo," he whispered. His other hand clutched my wrist, firm, urgent. "Come on. We don't have much time." I froze. "Dan, what's going on?" He didn't answer. Instead, he tugged me into the hallway, closing my door quietly behind us. He moved with an urgency I'd never seen before, his steps quick but silent, like someone sneaking through enemy territory. "Don't grab anything," he muttered. His eyes darted to the shadows as though they were listening. "Just trust me." My chest tightened. This wasn't like him. Daniel was reckless sometimes, sure, sneaking out to meet friends, pulling late-night pranks, but never like this. Never silent, never this, haunted. "Dan, you're scaring me," I whispered, my voice trembling. He didn't stop. He didn't even look at me. He just led me down the hall, past the family portraits that lined the walls, past the grandfather clock that ticked too loudly in the silence, past the dew. Chapter 2: The Road into Shadows. The tires hummed against the asphalt, a constant drone that filled the silence Daniel refused to break. The night swallowed us, the headlights cutting through an endless stretch of dark road that wound into places I had never been. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the passenger window, my breath fogging up the glass. The house grew smaller and smaller in the distance until it was gone completely. Still, I couldn't shake the image of those curtains shifting. A hand, a figure, something unseen, watching us. My stomach twisted. Finally, I turned to my brother. "Daniel, you need to tell me what's happening. I'm not going to just sit here in silence while you drag me out in the middle of the night." His grip on the steering wheel tightened, but his eyes never left the road. He looked like he was fighting some internal war, torn between keeping the truth locked inside and the weight of carrying it alone. "It's not safe to talk about it," he muttered. His voice was low, almost drowned by the hum of the engine. What do you mean it's not safe? It's just you and me in here. No, his jaw tightened. It's never just you and me anymore. A chill rippled through me. I wanted to demand an explanation, to force him to look me in the eyes and tell me everything. But the way he said it, the finality, the dread laced in his tone, froze the words in my throat. Instead, I sat there, listening to the steady thrum of the car, the occasional crackle of gravel beneath the tires, the whisper of wind against the windows. Every sound felt magnified, sharper, like the night itself was leaning in, listening. We drove for nearly half an hour in silence before Daniel finally spoke again. You remember when you were little, he said suddenly, and you used to wake up screaming because of the shadows in your room? The question caught me off guard. Yeah. You'd run into my room, and I'd tell you it was nothing. Just your imagination. Do you remember what I used to say? I nodded. You'd say, shadows can't hurt you. They're just tricks of the light. A hollow smile ghosted across his lips, but it vanished almost instantly. His eyes darkened, and his grip on the wheel tightened until his knuckles turned white. I was wrong, he whispered. My pulse quickened. What are you talking about? He didn't answer. Instead, his gaze flicked to the rearview mirror, just for a second, but it was enough. I followed his line of sight, my breath catching in my chest. At first, I thought it was nothing, just the empty road stretching behind us. But then I saw it. A shape. A distortion. Not a car. Not headlights. Just movement. Something darker than the night itself, gliding along the edges of the road, keeping pace with us. Daniel. Don't, he cut me off sharply. His voice cracked like a whip. I told you not to look back. My body went rigid, my mouth going dry. I turned back toward the front, my hands trembling. Chapter 3, Whispers in the Woods. The forest was alive with silence, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, suffocating stillness that presses in on you until you can hear your own pulse in your ears. Above us, the trees stretched tall and skeletal, their branches clawing at the night sky. The moonlight filtered through in fractured beams, spilling across the dirt path like broken glass. I sat frozen in the passenger seat, my hand still clutching the door handle. Daniel's words echoed in my head, somewhere it can't follow. But even as he said it, his voice had wavered. And I couldn't shake the feeling that we hadn't escaped at all. Come on, Daniel said finally. He pushed open his door, the hinges groaning in protest. The sound seemed too loud, too exposed, like it would draw attention to us. He rounded the car and opened my door, motioning for me to get out. I hesitated. Are you sure it's safe here? His jaw clenched. Safer than back there. Not exactly reassuring. But I stepped out anyway, my bare feet crunching against the gravel. The cold seeped into me instantly, and I hugged my arms around myself. The trees loomed on all sides, a living wall of shadows. Daniel led me off the path, deeper into the woods. He moved quickly, glancing over his shoulder every few steps as though expecting something to emerge from the darkness behind us. I struggled to keep up, twigs snapping underfoot, the damp earth clinging to my skin. Finally, after what felt like hours but could only have been minutes, we reached a small clearing. The moonlight pooled here, silver and cold, illuminating a circle of moss and fallen leaves. Daniel stopped at the center, his chest rising and falling rapidly. This will do, he murmured. For what? I asked. My voice cracked with fear. He looked at me then, really looked, his eyes wide and haunted. To keep you safe. We sat in the clearing, the silence stretching between us like a taut wire ready to snap. I couldn't hold back any longer. Daniel, you need to tell me what's going on. What was in the house? What's been following us? And don't say nothing because I saw it, I saw something. He rubbed his hands over his face, his shoulders slumping. For the first time, he looked less like the protective older brother I'd always known and more like someone carrying a burden too heavy to bear. "You ever wonder why we never had sleepovers?" he asked suddenly. I blinked at him. "What?" "When we were kids," he continued, his voice hollow. "Why Mom and Dad never let us invite friends to stay the night. Why we weren't allowed to play outside after dark. Why the basement door was always locked." My mouth went dry. I thought they were just strict. He shook his head slowly. "No. They knew." A cold weight settled in my stomach. "Knew what?" "That it's been with us. All along." The word sent a shiver down my spine. Daniel stared at the ground, his fingers digging into the dirt. I started seeing it when I was. Chapter 4, The Hollow Faces. The clearing wasn't safe anymore. That much was obvious. The face in the trees lingered long after I shut my eyes, etched into my mind like a brand. Pale skin, eyes like voids, that smile, too wide, too deliberate, a parody of something human. And behind it, I could swear the trees bent inward, leaning closer, listening. Daniel stood in front of me like a shield, every muscle in his body tense, his fists clenched at his sides. He didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even breathe loudly, as though any sound might invite disaster. Then the whispers began again. This time, they weren't distant. They came from all around us, above, below, within. A chorus of voices, familiar and unfamiliar, echoing with a sickening sweetness that made my stomach churn. "Come back, come home, we've missed you." My mother's voice. I stiffened, the sound cutting into me like glass. "Daniel," I whispered, my throat tight. "Do you hear that?" His jaw flexed. "Don't listen. It sounds like Mom." My eyes filled with tears before I could stop them. The voice was so clear, so warm, exactly as I remembered from childhood. "She's calling for us." "It's not her." Daniel snapped, spinning toward me. His eyes blazed with desperation. "It's never her. Do you understand? It takes voices, faces, whatever it needs to break you. But it's not her." My chest heaved, my mind torn between reason and the aching pull of that voice. Because deep down, a small, fragile part of me wanted to believe it. Wanted to run toward it, to throw myself into the shadows and into her arms, even if it meant the end. But Daniel's grip on my shoulders kept me anchored. His nails dug into my skin, grounding me in the here and now. "Stay with me," he whispered fiercely. "Please." The shadows thickened, creeping closer with each passing second. Figures emerged within them, tall, thin, faceless silhouettes that swayed like reeds in the wind. They circled the clearing, closing in inch by inch. "We need to move," Daniel muttered. His eyes darted between the shapes, calculating. "Now. Where?" My voice cracked. The forest was endless, and every direction looked the same, trees and darkness. "Anywhere but here." He grabbed my hand, pulling me toward a narrow path that cut through the trees. My legs stumbled beneath me, but adrenaline kept me moving. The whispers followed, growing louder, angrier, their words twisting into snarls. "Ungrateful, unworthy, ours." Branches tore at my skin as we pushed through the undergrowth. My lungs burned, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. But still, the shapes followed. Every time I glanced back, they were there, not running, not walking, just sliding through the trees like shadows painted onto reality itself. "Don't look!" Daniel barked, yanking me forward. But I couldn't help it. I looked. And I saw them. Not just shadows. Faces. Dozens of them, flickering in and out of existence, faces I recognized. Our neighbor. Chapter 5, The Circle of Ashes. The thing wearing my face smiled at me from beyond the circle of stones. Its skin was too pale, too smooth, its eyes bottomless pits that seemed to drink in the light. It tilted its head, mirroring me like a reflection in shattered glass. Daniel shoved me behind him, his arms spread wide. "Stay back," he shouted at it. The creature didn't flinch. It just kept smiling. And then, slowly, it raised a hand and beckoned. The gesture was small, almost playful, but it sent a surge of nausea rolling through me. My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat. "Don't move," Daniel hissed. "Don't say a word." But my double's lips parted, and a voice spilled out. My voice. "Daniel," it said sweetly. "You've done enough. Let me go to her." Every hair on my body stood on end. I shook my head violently. "That's not me." The smile widened. Daniel dropped to his knees, his hands scrabbling in the dirt. He traced his fingers along the carved symbols in the stones, his lips moving in silent words I couldn't hear. His eyes darted between the markings as though searching for a pattern, a key. "What are you doing?" I whispered, my chest heaving. "Finishing what Dad started," he muttered. His hands shook as he dug through the ash in the fire pit, scattering bits of charred wood and bone. He tried to bind it here, but he didn't know how. I found his notes, his journal. "If I can just..." The voices surged, drowning his words. Dozens, hundreds, all speaking at once. Some begged, some mocked, some screamed. I pressed my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The sound came from inside, vibrating in my skull, filling me with thoughts that weren't mine. "He's lying to you. He's always lied. He brought you here to feed you to us." I gasped, my vision blurring. "Daniel. Don't listen," he barked without looking up. Sweat beaded on his forehead, dripping into the dirt. "That's all it does. It lies. It twists. Don't let it in." But how could I not? The voices were relentless, slipping into every crack of doubt I'd ever had. And then, another voice cut through. Low, steady, familiar. "Dad." "Daniel," it said. "Stop." I froze. The sound was unmistakable. My father's voice, exactly as it had been, deep and commanding, tinged with that quiet authority that had always silenced arguments in the house. Daniel froze too, his head snapping up. His chest heaved as his eyes scanned the shadows. "Don't listen," he whispered again, but the conviction in his voice had faltered. And then the figure stepped into the clearing. It was him. Dad. He looked exactly as I remembered, the broad shoulders, the tired eyes, the lines etched deep into his face. He wore the same flannel shirt he always had when working in the garage. His expression was grave, but his eyes were soft. "Daniel," he said again, his voice low but clear. "Stop this." Daniel shook his head violently. "You're not him." "I am." The figure stepped closer, stopping just below. Chapter 6, The Last Light. The ground split open beneath us. The stones that had glowed so fiercely a heartbeat ago shattered, scattering sparks across the clearing like dying fireflies. The voices rose to a deafening pitch, no longer whispers but shrieks that clawed at my bones. The air rippled with heat, then cold, then something worse, something like absence, like the space where air should have been torn away. Daniel's grip on my hands tightened. His eyes, wide and frantic, burned with a fear I'd never seen before. "Don't let go," he shouted, his voice breaking under the roar. But I couldn't hold him. The ground bucked again, and a jagged crack yawned open between us. I stumbled backward, my hands slipping from his. "Daniel." He fell to his knees, clawing at the dirt to keep himself from being dragged into the darkness spilling out from the earth. The shadows clung to him like oil, writhing, pulling, whispering. His body jerked violently, like he was being yanked in two directions at once. I scrambled forward, grabbing his arm. The moment I touched him, the voices slammed into me, hundreds of them, screaming inside my skull. Let him go, he belongs to us, he chose this, he lied to you, he lied. Stop it. I screamed, my voice hoarse. The clearing fell silent. All at once, the shadows stilled. The shrieking ceased. The world seemed to hold its breath. And then, it rose. It was no longer a shape at the edge of sight, no longer a mimic of my face. The thing that had stalked us for years, that had haunted our nights, finally revealed itself. It didn't have a form, not really. It was a collapse of light, a warping of everything around it. Looking at it made my vision twist, my stomach lurch. Limbs that weren't limbs unfurled, stretching into the sky and curling back down. Faces flickered across its surface, thousands of them, each one frozen in an expression of terror or pain. Its voice wasn't a sound but a vibration that thrummed in my bones, ancient and endless. And it spoke. You. The word wasn't directed at Daniel. It was meant for me. You are the vessel. The promise. The end and the beginning. My body froze. My heart slammed against my ribs. Daniel dragged himself upright, blood streaking his face, his arm trembling under my grip. No, he roared. She's not yours. She never was. The thing turned toward him, and for a moment, the world seemed to dim. You are nothing but a delay, it said. A child's tantrum stretched across years. You cannot keep her from me. Daniel's hand shot to his pocket. He pulled out something small, round, and dark, a stone etched with markings that glowed faintly even in the chaos. His hands shook as he raised it toward the thing. I can, he shouted. I'll finish what Dad started. The creature shuddered, the faces rippling across its form screaming in unison. The air cracked like thunder, and a gale of freezing wind slammed into us. I shielded my face, my body and